here at Fan Day, getting ready for the drawdown and getting ready for the start of the season. Boy, we're all ready. From the Troy Sports Network, I'm Barry McKnight, Jerry Miller, Chris Blackshear. Jerry, what year is this for you, and how excited are you about it all?
Well, I'm as fired up as I was the first year. This is my 32nd year getting a chance to broadcast Troy football, and I can't wait for it to get started. This is a year like no other, to be honest with you, with all of the question marks, with the new faces, the new coaching regime, all of the expectation for what has happened the last couple of years, the wondering about how the new players are going to integrate, how the new coaches are going to get things done. But through all of that, the expectations have not changed, Barry. The fans expect this team to put a good product on the field, to compete, and have a chance to win a championship. And I don't think that'll be any different this year.
Jerry Miller's going to be in the box with me in the broadcast booth, the Ralph Black broadcast booth at home games. Chris Blackshear on the sidelines. You feel what Jerry's saying about the added excitement, about the expectations that continue? What's your purview?
It is. I think the one thing is we've known now as we've gone through a couple coaching changes over the last several years, and predominantly because of the success the program has had under those coaches, it leads to bigger opportunities for them. And I think what's happened is you've seen, it started with Coach Blakeney years back, where the standard and the expectation at Troy, he used to say anytime, anywhere. And you can tell now as Coach Parker has come on board with his staff, as Jerry alluded to, they understand the Troy expectation. They understand what product the fans and the support system of this program expect to see on the field. And let's don't forget, back-to-back Sunbelt Conference championships. This coaching staff understands this program, it doesn't matter who's on the field, who's coaching, there's still a big target that's even grown since last year on the back of the Trojans program.
We were all part of the broadcast 2 years ago when Troy won the title, and then, of course, repeated the next year. The bullseye is on the backs of the Trojans. Not a whole lot of preseason hype externally of the program, Jerry, and a lot of that probably has to do with, obviously, there's a lot of losses. You lose Kimani Vitale, you lose Gunnar Watson, you lose those great rush ends and the defensive backfield for this team. But most everybody is talking about tempering Troy's expectations because of the new coaching staff. What's your response?
Well, I don't think the expectations are going to be tempered. There's some question marks that have to be answered. Now, there may be some people from the media standpoint who are saying that, who are saying, hey, 8 or 9 wins this year would be great. And it may be. We're in a very competitive league. I don't know that I've ever seen the Sun Belt Conference or any league we've ever played in more competitive, with high talent, high coaching levels of coaching staffs, and people who understand the game. The facilities have grown at every location. It is a highly competitive Sun Belt, so it will not be easy. For goodness sakes, the pick on our side is Texas State. Whoever thought that would have happened as long as we've been in, but they have raised their level to that, to where they are the team to beat going in. But it just speaks to how the conference is overall, up and down. So, I don't think the fans' expectations are going to be tempered. They expect these new players to come in. They expect Coach Parker and his staff to continue the tradition that's been here for years, to continue the pace. Will it be easy? No, it won't be, and there are questions to answer. The media's maybe tamping down the expectations, but I don't think the fans are.
Well, you've been at it a long time, Chris. He's like Old Man River. He just keeps rolling along. I know the fans would be reassured or otherwise just to know your initial thoughts, what you think of Jared Parker.
I've been extremely impressed with Jared Parker. I think he's, first of all, a tremendous football coach. You look at his pedigree, where he's come from. I think he's ready. And having a chance to get to know him, I think he's a man of high character. And I think he understands, as Chris said earlier, what the Troy tradition is, what the expectations are. This is not a program that's trying to learn how to win. They know how to win. This program at every level has been able to win. So I think he is the right fit at the right time. Yes, there are some questions that have got to be answered. There's certainly some talent that's got to be replaced, but I've gotten to know the coaching staff a little bit. I'm extremely impressed with the staff that he's put together. So my expectations are that Troy's going to go out and compete from day one. Will it look the same as the product did last year? It's not going to look exactly the same. He's going to put his stamp on it, but from the expectation of competitiveness and what we expect the the Troy football team to do when the ball is kicked. I don't think that's going to change. I think that level is going to be very high.
Well, let's also address the elephant in the room with everything. You got to have the coaching staff that has the IQ and high esteem of the X's and O's.
Right.
But it's much more than that. Let's be honest. The landscape of college football has completely changed. And what tips your hand at that is Texas State taking nothing away from them. They knew they had to utilize the transfer portal and NIL as much as they could to have an opportunity to compete in the Western Division and overall the Sun Belt. That's what they got. They got that talent there. Now we saw, I think for the very first time, we've kind of been struck by that. So this coaching staff, who'd ever thought you would have a chief of staff, a general manager, and all of these off-the-field roles? And I'm telling you, in today's landscape of college football is as important, in my opinion, sometimes if not more important, from the evaluation perspective of the talent, because you no longer can guarantee you're going to have a kid for 2 to 3 years. So you got to have a plan in place if somebody leaves. As Jabri left and went to Texas A&M, who feels that? Devontae Ross now has an opportunity. He can jump up and fill. So it's so much more than that. It's so difficult to be in the coaching profession anyway from the expectations. You add what's happened on top of it. What is it, Barry? Our program, what do we got now? Almost over 80% of our rosters turned over since last football season.
I think I heard this stat. I don't know if it's exactly right, so don't read it as law, but I think I heard Troy had 11 players that had taken snaps last year. None of them's career started at Troy University, so it gives you an idea of what you're talking about, how that from year to year it's going to be a different look. What's got to be consistent is the coaches, their philosophy, and what the product they try to put out there. The players all are going to buy into that, and I think Coach Parker, I've been to a couple of practices, and I think they're doing a good job of getting these guys to buy into what they want to do.
Thoughts on Goose Crowder?
Really good. And we saw when he transferred in from West Virginia last year, Gunner was here forever. He earned that starting spot. You saw him consistently got better, and he, and it got me towards the end of last season. I realized, the talk on him on the street was Gunner was a game manager. You heard that a lot. No, he was a winner.
Gunner was a winner.
Son of Gun was a winner, and he won back-to-back conference championships leading this football team, and actually had some of his best games in the biggest moments, in the biggest games. And Goose was right there every day. We saw if Gunner Watson was not here last year, Goose Crowder would have been your starting quarterback at Troy last year. So now you've got that there. So I cannot wait to see Goose finally has his opportunity. Coaching staff's already named him QB1 already. Now even more so and more important, because you're only one play away, I'm loving, Jerry, the battle between Tucker Kilcrease and Matthew Caldwell, the Gardner-Webb transfer, the battle they've got going back and forth at the backup position, because to me, that's just as important as Goose being named the starter.
I think you're right. I think that was the big concern coming out of the spring, was that depth, because you only had Goose and Tucker. Now Caldwell's come in, and he's proven that he can compete. So that quarterback room now is a highly competitive room, and I think they're all proving that they can direct this offense if they are called on to do. And it's going to be a little bit of a different look. I think this team, looking at Damian Taylor in that running back room, I think we're going to have a chance to probably run the ball effectively, Barry. I think our tight ends are going to play a big role. We've got some unproven talent at wide receiver, but, man, from what I've seen, there is a lot of talent there. So I think Sean Reagan, as the offensive coordinator, is going to have some weapons, and he's ready for that role as well, to direct this Troy offense as the offensive coordinator. I can't wait to see that product unfold.
Well, he's talking about that, and you and I were talking with Jared Parker before one of the scrimmages and asking about Goose, and he said this. He said, I think he'll be really good if we can keep him upright. Jerry mentions the running backs. He mentions the wide receivers. The offensive line is going to have to gel, and they're going to have to do it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, and I would love to gel behind Eli Russ, who started 13 or 14 games at center last year. Oh, let's just throw in Daniel King as well, too. Those are two firm foundations you can build that offensive line, and you see the coaching staff now is doing the same thing we've done in the past. You're moving them from multiple positions because you want to build the depth, but you also never know when you may in the middle of a game have to switch somebody from tackle to guard and back and forth. So it's going to be fun to see Goose back there. And another one I want to watch too before the offensive line, you mentioned about Damian Taylor having the opportunity to run the football and it really be his time now. I'm telling you, watch out for Jordan Lovett, the redshirt freshman. You know, you saw a little bit last year, but I think he's going to have a big impactful and has a chance to have a breakout season.
And you mentioned, Bear, the offensive line. I think that's where the coaches may have done their best recruiting that nobody really knows about, because one of the concerns, we knew we had some frontline guys like Russ and like King and some of those guys up front. It was the depth that was the concern, and these guys have really done a good job of hitting the transfer portal, of recruiting from the high school level and the junior college level, and they've built some depth along that offensive line that I think is going to be really key.
Well, you look at the losses that this program suffered from last year's championship year. On the defensive side, Javon Solomon, Richard Jubenor, Booter Jones, 5 senior defensive backs, Freddie Stewart and Fletcher and Pettis and Ershad Davis.
Or you can stop now, Barry.
That's a lot of people who had played a lot of good football, Jerry, all across the defensive side of things. I also get the sense, what you're talking about, that the coaches did an awfully good job of attracting players, and there's some players that came back from last year that I think will help provide a centerpiece for this club.
Yeah, I think you're right. And when we talk about the success that this Troy team has had over the years, and certainly the last 2, you've got to point to that defensive unit. They've been able to keep us in ball games, even in those close ball games. It was the defense that gave us a chance to win those close ball games. And when you're only returning 2 starters, that certainly gives you pause. But they've certainly got the leadership there. I think Jordan Stringer is poised to be. I couldn't believe he wasn't a first team all conference pick, but I think he is poised to be the leader on a defense that has a ton of talent. That's going to be the side of the football where I think we're going to go through a learning curve and realize, hey, these guys can really play.
Yeah, and a couple more to throw in there on top with Jordan is we're looking forward to seeing Raymond Cutts play, and he's up to 6'3", 245 now. He's really worked in that weight room in the offseason. And you think back to the Texas State game last year, unfortunately, when Philip Lee went down with his injury. He was starting to really. How many times
did we call Philip Lee's name before he got injured?
Yeah, he was really starting to. Him and Richard Jubenor were becoming that 1-2 punch. Now, with Richard moved on from graduation, look for Philip to even have a bigger role. And the couple of scrimmages that I've been to and watched him, he has become unblockable to this point in the preseason. I look for big things out of those 3 and many more of the kids that we've got on board now on the defensive side.
Yeah, Jamal Williams and Brendan Jackson, a couple other guys. Just quickness on the defensive side of things. I'm going to put you on the spot here as we look into the schedule, because the fans will see this as the obvious pair of swing games for this team this year if they hope to continue the level of success and improve upon it. Texas State here
on a Thursday night.
On a Thursday night, then an off week before having to go to South Alabama on a Tuesday. Jerry, it seems obvious for me to say it, which is one of the things I like to have. I like to say the obvious stuff, that this season can go either way during that stretch.
Well, I think so. I think that will be the turning point. What we've got to do is prepare well up to that. You've got a Nevada team coming into Troy to kick off the season. Looking forward to that. That's 2 weeks from today, man. Are you kidding me? 2 weeks from today, we're going to be kicking it off. And then you're going to really be tested with the 2 highest preseason teams, ranked teams that we will play. We go on the road to Memphis, who I think was 35 in the preseason poll, and then to Iowa, 23. So this team will have a chance to gel against some really good competition before you get into those stretch where those games are going to be so important. But I agree with you. Texas State's a real deal. They're a very good team. South Alabama, I think they are ready to go. They are fired up about their new coach, a guy who's familiar to a lot of us. They're going to be good. We've got to go down there. That's a Tuesday night game. So the 2 key games are midweek games, so which changes up your schedule. So I agree with you 100%. We're going to know there if Troy is poised to make a run at their 3rd division title.
Well, I think you got to break the season down, in my opinion, in quarters, just like the game. And you want to be playing your best football going into the 4th quarter. That's games 9 through 12. You got to manage the first 4 on the road, because that's a tall task. Memphis, great football team, Jerry, as you alluded to, but they're even better when they're playing in the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah.
You see a stark difference in that team when they're on the road than when they're home. So you're going to go get them at home. Iowa, You know, everybody talks about their struggles on offense, but you don't have to score many points when you have a defense the way they have year in, year out. So we're going to really be tested early, and we got to make sure that first quarter of the season, those first 4 games, one, we stay as healthy as possible. So we can come back and get into Sun Belt Conference play, because all games matter. But that conference championship, that Western Division title, and getting back to the conference championship game potentially for the 3rd consecutive year, that's the goal. You know, that's where you want to be with this program. So I like how the schedule shapes up. It's not that bad of a travel. Thank goodness we don't have to drive to Lafayette this year. Right, so that's a plus. So I think even though you got the 2 midweek games, one at home, one's in state at South, we've had a lot worse away schedule. I kind of like how the schedule sets up.
All right, Jerry, leave us with a thought, something for the fans to take with them as you look for the entire length and breadth of this season, knowing what you know about this program and about this year's team. Give us a thought. What do you think this season is going to hinge upon? What's it going to look like? What are you looking for?
Well, for the fans, I want them to embrace it like they always have every season. They're gathering behind us for the kickoff party, which sends the message that, hey, football is here. Looking forward to that. But I also think they need to. I don't want them to temper their expectations, but I also want them to give these coaches a chance to do what they do, to put their stamp on it, and to lead this program, because I'm telling you, this is a quality coaching staff. Jared Parker and all the guys he has put together, they're going to lead these young men in the right way. So, yeah, it may take a little patience. That schedule is tough early on, but I still think the talent is there. So I think we've got to get off to a solid start. These players are going to have to buy into what these coaches are telling them, and sometimes that takes a little time. So we may have to be a little patient, but I certainly think the expectation is that this is going to be a team that's going to compete for that title once again.
Yeah, the early part of the year, Chris, is kind of a voyage of discovery for a lot of these guys, finding out about the coaches, what Jerry's talking about, finding out more about themselves. Once this thing gets rolling and looks the way you expect them to look, what's it all going to look like?
Well, the main thing I want to look for is how we compete. How do we compete early? How physical do we play on the defensive side of the ball? That's going to tell you if the values of this program, from coach to coach and players to players, is there and it's instilled. And I'm anxious to see. We won so many games the last 2 years in the fourth quarter, whether we're ahead or behind. Whether it was a big play to get the lead or a big play to hold on to the lead, that's happened. Is that intensity for 4 quarters still there? That's what I'm looking for. Another big change this year, Barry, I've actually been really serious this entire podcast, and this may actually be this may a whole different conversation. But it dawned on me when Jerry said, 34 years?
32nd year.
32nd. I would like his opinion. When he started broadcasting, the quarterback had a leather helmet. Now they got a communication piece to talk to the quarterback in their helmet. I'm just curious about how that's going to work out, because that is a change.
The game's come a long way, I'll say that.
Everything changes. Everything changes, and it's how you adapt to change that makes a difference. Here, as Jerry alluded, we are at the Drawdown, the big fan appreciation night here at Trojan Arena. The fans are excited about it. There's going to be a special announcement made tonight concerning the Trojans Together Collective. Find out more about that at trojanstogethercollective.com. Chris on the sidelines, Jerry in the booth with me, Barry McKnight. Our Troy Sports Network coverage actually begins on Monday, August 26th with Trojan Talk at Baumhauer's Victory Grill with head coach Jared Parker. Then Nevada at the Vet on August 31st, Saturday night, 6 o'clock. We're on the air beginning at 4. Jerry's right. Embrace this team. Tickets are available at 1-877-878-WINS. Much more convenient to go to TroyTrojans.com/tickets, fellas. I cannot wait.
Well, that's it. The fans want to know what they can do to help. Buy those tickets and show up. Make the Vet the toughest place in the league to play.
Let's go. It's time for football, guys.
I'm ready.
It's ready.
Chris Blackshear, Jerry Miller, I'm Barry McKnight. Hoping to see you at the Vet this fall.